Some muscle cars made headlines for their power. Others quietly built a legacy by never breaking down. You've heard of Mustangs and Chargers, but what about the machines that refused to quit, even after 200,000 miles? The ones with engines so overbuilt, they kept going long after the hype died. In this video, we uncover 8 American muscle cars that didn't just bring the heat, they brought dependability no one expected. From underrated V8s to bulletproof blocks, these are the unsung heroes still tearing up roads today. Stay tuned, because you might just spot a legend hiding in plain sight. 1. 1970 Buick GSX. At first glance, the 1970 Buick GSX looks more like a refined cruiser than a street brawler. With its sleek lines, bold rear spoiler, and twin racing stripes, it had all the attitude of a muscle car, but without the loudmouth reputation. What most people did not realize was that under its sculpted hood lay one of the most dependable engines of its era, the 455 cubic inch Buick V8, also known as the Stage 1. This engine wasn't just powerful, it was deceptively reliable. While Chevy and Mopar fans were chasing peak horsepower on paper, Buick engineers focused on real-world torque and longevity. The Stage 1 version delivered an astonishing 510 pound-feet of torque at just 2,800 RPM, giving it off-the-line power that could humble many of its louder rivals. But what really made it special was how understressed it was. It used high nickel content blocks, forged internals, and oversized oil passages, engineering choices that made the engine run cooler, wear slower, and tolerate abuse far better than many expected. Even decades later, many surviving GSXs have clocked hundreds of thousands of miles with minimal rebuilds. And because Buick marketed the GSX as a luxury performance car, many of them were never raced to death like Chargers or Mustangs, which helped preserve the engines further. So while the GSX might not have gotten the flashy Hollywood moments, it quietly built a reputation in garages, racetracks, and car shows as a muscle car that could actually last. A true sleeper in both performance and reliability. Number 2. 1987 Buick GNX. In the twilight years of the original muscle car era, most people had already declared the segment dead. Gas prices were up, insurance premiums were crushing, and emissions laws had choked the life out of big block power. Then came the 1987 Buick GNX, a blacked-out, turbocharged menace that didn't just survive the smog era, it outsmarted it. Built as a limited edition evolution of the already quick Grand National, the GNX looked like a stealth bomber on wheels, but its real magic was buried deep in its engineering. Under the hood was a 3.8-liter turbocharged V6, developed with McLaren engines and ASC. While other automakers were scrambling to make their V8s compliant, Buick went with something smarter. Boosted 6-cylinder power paired with bulletproof simplicity. The GNX used a Garrett T3 turbocharger, ceramic impeller, and an upgraded intercooler system. It was officially rated at 276 horsepower and 360 lb-ft of torque, but real-world numbers were much higher. Many dyno-tested closer to 300-plus horsepower. Yet, despite the power, the GNX's engine block was incredibly durable and overbuilt. Buick had been perfecting that 3.8-liter V6 since the 1970s, and by '87, it was virtually indestructible. What made the GNX engine so reliable was its closed-deck design, hydraulic lifters, and conservative boost levels. It could take punishment day after day, and unlike exotic turbo cars from Europe, the GNX was easy to maintain, with parts readily available, and a loyal fan base keeping the legend alive. The GNX didn't roar like a big block, but it whispered something far more dangerous. Muscle wasn't dead. It had evolved. 3. 1967 Pontiac Firebird 400. The 1967 Pontiac Firebird 400 entered the scene at a time when muscle cars were turning into cultural icons. Positioned as GM's answer to the Ford Mustang, the Firebird was bold, aggressive, and unmistakably Pontiac. But the real secret behind its long-lasting legacy? That roaring 400 cubic inch V8, a block that combined brute force with underrated mechanical endurance. Pontiac didn't just slap a big engine into a small car. The Firebird's 400 engine was based on a tried and tested foundation derived from Pontiac's full-size cars. It featured a cast-iron block and heads, oversized bearings, and a robust bottom end that could take serious abuse. With a factory rating of 325 horsepower and 410 pound-foot of torque, the Firebird 400 could smoke the tires with ease. But what many owners appreciated was how forgiving the engine was over time. This engine was famous for its wide torque curve, delivering power throughout the rev range without the need to wind it out like some high-strung V8s. That made it perfect for both street cruising and quarter-mile bursts. And because Pontiac designed their own engines separately from Chevy, it had its own unique character and better cooling flow thanks to a reverse-flow water pump system that helped prevent overheating, even under stress. Mechanics loved working on it. It had a simple carbureted setup, minimal electronics, and an engine bay that left plenty of room for wrenching. As a result, the Firebird 400s that survive today often still run on original blocks or require only mild rebuilds even after decades of wear. In a world full of muscle cars that burned out fast, the Firebird 400 proved it could burn long and bright. 4. 1993 Ford SVT Mustang Cobra. By the early 90s, the Mustang had gone through its share of ups and downs. But in 1993, just before the Fox body era ended, Ford's Special Vehicle Team, SVT, gave it one last legendary send-off, the 1993 Mustang Cobra. At first glance, it did not scream radical change, but underneath, it was packing one of the most reliable and overbuilt small-block V8s ever dropped into a muscle car. This Cobra featured the 5.0-liter Windsor V8, enhanced with GT40 heads, revised intake, and a special camshaft. It produced a modest 235 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. Numbers that might not sound wild today, but this engine had something more important: bulletproof engineering. The 5.0 Windsor had already earned a reputation in previous Mustangs, but the SVT tweaks turned it into a street-legal sleeper with long-term reliability. Its iron block was incredibly durable, and unlike some high-revving sports cars, this engine thrived on low-end torque and simple maintenance. It used forged pistons, hydraulic roller lifters, and had a near indestructible bottom end, making it ideal for both performance tuning and everyday driving. Perhaps the biggest testament to its reliability is the community that grew around it. Even today, countless 1993 Cobra owners daily drive their cars or race them on weekends on original blocks with over 200,000 miles. It is not rare to find one still running without a rebuild. The SVT Mustang Cobra was not just a farewell to the Fox body era. It was a love letter to old-school reliability wrapped in performance. In a decade where tech was taking over, this car stayed analog, and that might be exactly why it still runs strong today. Number 5. 1971 AMC Javelin AMX. When people talk about classic muscle cars, AMC is often left out of the conversation. But those who know their automotive history will tell you the 1971 AMC Javelin AMX was more than just an outlier. It was a stylish, aggressive performer with one of the most surprisingly durable engines of the era, the AMC 401 V8. This engine was AMC's response to the big boys, Ford's 429, Mopar's 440, and GM's 454. And while AMC lacked the marketing muscle, it made up for it with sheer engineering focus. The 401 was a high nickel content cast iron block built with forged steel crankshafts and beefy connecting rods. Output was around 330 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque, but its true strength lay in its ability to keep going year after year. Unlike some of the flashier V8s of the 70s, the AMC 401 did not suffer from overheating issues, excessive wear, or fragile internals. It had generous oil passages, a well-balanced rotating assembly, and a reputation for taking abuse without complaint. Whether you were drag racing or daily driving, the Javelin's heart kept ticking. Another advantage? AMC engines were simpler to work on. And because they were used across multiple models, including Jeep trucks later on, parts availability remained strong well after AMC's exit from the car world. Today, enthusiasts often rebuild AMC 401s with minimal machining and find them still holding factory tolerances decades later. The 1971 Javelin AMX might not be the first name people drop at car shows, but among mechanics and loyalists, it earns quiet respect as a muscle car built to endure, not just impress. Number 6. 1979 Pontiac Trans Am 6.6. By the late 1970s, the golden age of muscle was fading fast. Emissions laws, fuel crises, and rising insurance premiums had neutered many once feared legends. But the 1979 Pontiac Trans Am, equipped with a 6.6-liter, 403 cubic inch Oldsmobile V8, was one of the few that held the line, not with raw power, but with incredible durability. Let's be clear, the 403 Olds V8 was not a fire-breathing drag strip king. Rated at 185 horsepower, it was modest by muscle standards. But what it lacked in peak numbers, it made up for in bulletproof reliability and street usability. Designed more as a torque-rich cruiser than a racer, this engine was built with longevity in mind. The 403 featured a high-nickel block, a large-diameter crankshaft with generous bearing surfaces, and a cooling-friendly architecture that made it far less prone to overheating than many rivals. Unlike other muscle engines that required constant tuning or performance babysitting, the 403 just kept running, whether in scorching heat, stop-and-go traffic, or long-distance road trips. It became so well regarded that Oldsmobile used it not just in Trans Ams, but across full-size cars and even RVs. And while purists may have scoffed at its corporate roots, mechanics loved how simple it was to work on. Clean layout, solid construction, and parts that rarely failed. Today, many surviving 79 Trans Ams with the 403 are still on the road. Not restored trailer queens, but actual runners. Their engines are often untouched, still firing reliably with hundreds of thousands of miles under the hood. The Trans Am 6.6 was not the loudest or the fastest, but it was one of the few that actually lasted long enough to tell its story. 7. 2004 Pontiac GTO. When Pontiac revived the legendary GTO badge in 2004, purists were skeptical. It was imported from Australia, lacked the aggressive body lines of its 60s and 70s predecessors, and looked more like a sports coupe than a fire-breathing muscle car. But underneath its understated exterior was something special. The LS1 5.7-liter V8, borrowed straight from the Corvette. And it was built to last. The LS1 was already famous by 2004, lightweight, all aluminum, and tuned for both performance and dependability. In the GTO, it produced 350 horsepower and 365 pound-feet of torque, and came paired with either a rock-solid 4-speed automatic or a Tremec 6-speed manual, both known for their long-term reliability. What made the LS1 so legendary was its balance of modern engineering and mechanical toughness. It featured a deep skirt block, 6-bolt main caps, and coil-on plug ignition. The result? An engine that could take a beating on the track, run daily errands, and still stay healthy past 200,000 miles with basic maintenance. Owners quickly discovered that the GTO was a wolf in sheep's clothing, and one that rarely broke down. With simple pushrod architecture, affordable parts, and massive aftermarket support, the LS1-powered GTO became a favorite among gearheads who wanted Corvette power without the Corvette price or flash. Even today, 2004-2006 GTOs are prized for their bulletproof drivetrains. It might not look like a classic muscle car, but pop the hood, and you'll find one of the most reliable modern V8s ever built, ready to run for decades. The 2004 GTO proved that true muscle never dies. It just changes shape. 8. 1996 Chevrolet Impala SS. In the mid-1990s, the American muscle scene was in hibernation. But then came something no one expected. A full-size family sedan that could rumble with the best of them. The 1996 Chevrolet Impala SS. Big, bold, and subtle in all black, it was the last of the rear-wheel drive body-on-frame beasts. And powering it? The LT1 5.7-liter V8, a detuned version of the Corvette engine, quietly one of the most reliable performance engines of its time. The LT1 in the Impala SS was no gimmick. It was a fuel-injected reverse-flow cooling iron block small block V8, rated at 260 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. But unlike its high-strung Corvette cousin, this LT1 was tuned for durability and torque, making it perfect for both spirited driving and long-haul reliability. Why so tough? The LT1 was born in GM's performance labs, but raised in the harsh reality of police service. A similar version powered the Caprice 9C1 police cruisers, and those cars were abused daily, idling for hours, high-speed chases, and city pounding. Yet many of them crossed 200,000 miles without major issues. That same DNA lived on in the Impala SS. Owners loved it for being understated muscle, a car that could cruise comfortably but still pin you to the seat when pushed. Maintenance was straightforward, with a simple ignition system, durable internals, and one of the most robust automatic transmissions of the era, the 4L60E. The 1996 Impala SS was the end of an era, muscle wrapped in a tuxedo. And even now, those who own one will tell you, this car never asks for much, just a full tank and an open road. So, what do these 8 machines have in common? They weren't always the loudest. They weren't always the fastest on paper, but they had something rare. Engines built to last, often overlooked in favor of flashier models. From Buick's torque-heavy beasts to the quietly dominant LS1 and police-grade LT1, these cars proved that reliability and muscle can coexist, if you know where to look. Some roared through the quarter mile, others slipped through traffic unnoticed. But decades later, they're still here, still running, still reminding us that the soul of American muscle isn't just in horsepower, it's in how long that power stays alive. Which one surprised you the most? Or do you have a reliable muscle car story of your own? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another chapter from the forgotten lanes of car history. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next ride.